In today's video, we're going to take a look at the AOQEE C1 IP camera, and we're going to free it with the Thingino open source firmware.
Honey, it's the worst day, 'cause it's the first day, and it really hurts me, 'cause I don't have you.
What's up, guys? It's Josh with the WL Tech Blog. Today I've got another stationary camera. We're going to have a look at it. We're going to put the Thingino open source firmware on it, and at the end we're going to talk about if this is a good buy or maybe you should look at one of the alternatives. Now, before we get started, if you're unfamiliar with the Thingino open source firmware project, this is a project that creates an open source complete replacement firmware for a lot of different IP cameras such as this, and takes you completely out of the vendor's ecosystem, allowing you to use your device with your own local running software. That could be anything from Home Assistant to Frigate to something like Unify Protect and some other closed sourced applications that are out there. It puts the power and control back in your hands. Now let's get this guy on the bench and have a look. And here we have the AOQEE C1 2K indoor-outdoor Wi-Fi security camera. Now this is not an unboxing channel, but look, it's in a box. But you know what? It's already been out of the box. So we'll just skip all that. Now when you buy the camera, it does come with its own power cord, and it comes with your typical wall plug as such. And looking at the specs, this one claims to be 5 volt at 1 amp, so not the greatest. It's plenty to run the camera, but you're not going to be proud to have it in your collection. Now, my camera has a boo-boo. I had to do a little repair job on it. Yours is not going to have this. Yours is going to have a little pigtail coming off of it to plug in your power cord. But just ignore that. I broke it. I fixed it. It's all good. Now, the camera itself, this is a mid-range camera. It has a pretty common 2 megapixel sensor in it, the SmartSense SC2336. It does 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi only, and the one real standout feature about this is it is rated for outdoor use. They do give you a little base that you can screw into something and kind of twist this guy in to hold it in place. Pretty nice if you wanted to mount it on a wall or something, or just wanted to make sure it couldn't get away. Now, as usual, I have not run the factory software on here. This is not a review of if this camera is any good to use out of the box. My assumption is it is not, because all of these devices have the same requirements of subscribing to a cloud service where other people will have access to your video data in various levels. I believe that you should own your own data, and your video is your data. Now, they don't make it obvious on the packaging anywhere, but the AOQEE, I'm guessing that's how you pronounce it. This brand is a sub-brand of Wansview, who makes a couple other brands, such as Galileo is pretty popular, and there's a few more, but ultimately there's not much to look at. It's got a swivel and pivot base. It pivots one direction here. It has a nice rubber cover over where the SD card and the reset button are. And as I mentioned, if yours is not damaged like mine is, you'll have a pigtail that'll keep the water out of your power port. So let's talk about how we do the firmware install. This is a no tools install, meaning the only thing that you need is an SD card and to follow the process. The SD card port is underneath this little rubber plug, and it ejects your SD card with force. So what we need to do is head over to my Thingino installers repository, which I have a link to in the video description. And you'll see I've got installers for a bunch of different models here. We'll go to the AOQEE C1, and there is something you need to know about this camera. There are 2 known versions. Now, I bought mine in September of 2025, and I have the newer version, which is the one with the ATBM 6062CU. So if you've bought yours before that, maybe you want to go ahead and try this one first without that particular chip. If you bought it since then, you want to try the one with the 6062 CU. Now, if you get it wrong, it's easy to tell and easy to fix. I'll put the instructions for that in the README at the installer repo. So don't worry too much about that. Now, another note is using this process, this is not reversible. Once you go to an open source firmware replacement, you cannot go back to the factory firmware. This is because there are keys that are specific to your camera that are in the firmware image that you will only have if you pull the image off your specific device. So if that's something that you are concerned about, you will want to use a flash programmer to take the image off of your camera, and that's a little more advanced. Now, with that said, I know for a fact I have the version with the 6062 CU, so we're going to go ahead and click on that. And then over here on the right, there is a download the raw file button. That's going to pull the image down. It's only about 15 megabytes, so it'll only take a moment. And so that's done. Now the next step, you want to use Raspberry Pi Imager to burn your SD card. This is available for Linux, Windows, or Mac, so it'll look the same on all devices. And it can handle the zip file directly. You don't need to unzip or do anything special with it. So we'll just launch that up real quick. All right, you don't need to choose the device. Just go to Choose OS, scroll all the way down, go to Use Custom. And that'll open up in your downloads, and you're going to go ahead and select our zip file. Choose Storage. That'll give you access to your SD card. Hit Next. It'll ask if you want to apply OS customizations. You do not. That is specific to if you're flashing a Raspberry Pi operating system. And we do want to go ahead and erase everything. Oops. But you need to hit Yes. And it'll ask you for your password to continue. Now this is a pretty small image, so it'll only take a moment or two to write and verify. Once it's done, you can go ahead and pop the SD card out of your SD card reader. All right, back over to our cam, and I've got our SD card prepared. Go ahead and pop this guy in. Now we're zoomed way in on this because it's kind of hard to see the LED on camera, and that's going to be our indicator of when the process is done. So we're all ready to go. We're going to plug in the power. Here we go. All right, the blue light is on, solid. In a second here, it's going to start flashing, and that's when it's going to be doing the real work. So here we go, flash, flash, flash. And when it's done, it's going to go back to solid. Now, since it's only an 8 megabyte chip, it only took that long. So we're going to go ahead and unplug the power and take out the SD card. There's the power. Here's the SD card. And now we're going to go ahead and plug the camera back in. Now this is different firmware now, so you'll get different feedback from the device. However, after a few seconds, you'll see some blinking. And in a second here, you'll hear a click, which we just heard. And we're about to see the provisioning Wi-Fi network show up here on our mobile device. So there we go, Thingino such and such. Now what you're going to do with your phone, go ahead and connect to the Wi-Fi network. It should automatically take you to a login page, which is the config page. However, on some devices, you may manually need to open your browser and go to 172.16.0.1. That will bring you to the Thingino configuration page. Now I'm going to go ahead and leave the host name the way it is. We're going to put in our root password, our Wi-Fi SSID and Wi-Fi password. Note the Wi-Fi SSID and password are both case sensitive, and make sure that you're giving it credentials to a 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi network. Once you've gotten those entered, it'll bring you to a validation screen. Hit proceed on that, and it's going to flash those settings to the camera, and it will reboot in a second. Once again, at boot up time, you will hear the click of the IR cut. You probably can't hear it on this microphone, but it just clicked. We've got our blinky blink. We're going to give it a few seconds to finish powering up, and I'm going to show you one of the neat tricks about Thingino. Alright, so here we've got our happy little camera, and if you pop open the cover here and tap the button,
IP address is 192.168.82.237.
and now you have the IP address of the camera. Let's go ahead and pull that up on our phone. All right, and you will be greeted by a authentication page. The username is going to be root, and the password will be whatever you put in the provisioning page. All right, and here you can see we are live on the preview page. So we've got the camera installed and ready to go, ready to integrate with whatever software you want to use it with. Now let's talk about, is this a camera that you should buy? Now, in order to do that, I actually spent a little time this morning writing a slideshow project. Let's check that out. That's over on my GitHub if you're interested. And I have one slideshow already configured for AOQEE competitors. I'm still not quite sure how you're supposed to pronounce that. Let's look at our slideshow. So here we have the AOQEE C1, and you can see we have the T23N processor, the SC2336 image sensor, one of two Wi-Fi choices by Alto Beam, and 8 megabyte flash. This is an outdoor rated camera and costs about $16 on Amazon. Now, one of the things you'll find when using Thingino is that you can pretty much choose your camera by the spec sheet. You'll also want to pay attention to what it takes to do the installation. Not all of them are as easy as the no tools. Some of them do require tools, and I definitely recommend that you mostly stick to the ones that I've done walkthrough videos. That will make it the easiest possible way to get started. So with that said, let's look at how the other ones compete. Here we have a AOQEE C120. This one has a higher end processor, a 3 megapixel image sensor instead of 2. It has Synaptics, this is actually Broadcom, and it has a 32 megabyte flash, which is huge and not really taken advantage of in Thingino. It has an easy installation with an OTG cable and the cloner software. I do have one. The video for that is coming soon. That one's about $30. We've got the GNCC GC2. This one, the current version, is essentially the same specs as the AOQEE. This one is currently $25 for a 2-pack, and there's a video coming soon. I should clarify here, when you have a camera that has both a T23 option and a T31, the T31 is an older chip that has additional features to it that are not in the T23. The T23 is cheaper and newer, uses a little bit less power, and so manufacturers have been moving to the T23. You can pretty much expect if you order a camera that has options, you're going to get the T23. Like I said, this one's $25 for a 2-pack. on Amazon, and I do have one of those 2-packs. I'll be getting to that real shortly. Next, we have the Juan A6M, another T23 processor, an SC1A4T, Alto Beam Wi-Fi, and 8MB flash. This one's $16 on Amazon, but even though they tell you on the box and on the advertisement that it's a 1080p camera, it's actually a really poor 720p sensor. So this is definitely not one that I recommend, even though it looks at a glance like a direct competitor. There's an LSC 3215672. This one's not available in the United States, so I can't say a whole lot about it other than its spec sheet, which is very close to what you would get with the AOQEE. The Sonoff Slim Gen 2, I did make a video on this one showing the installation, and it is another no tools install, so that's nice. This is the same processor, image sensor, comparable Wi-Fi, same flash size, and this one you can get on AliExpress for $30 to $35. We have the TP-Link Tapo C100 and C110. Now I've got the specs for this listed for both models. However, this is the important part here. Tapo will sell cameras with the same model name with different internals. We have a lot of folks who are buying Tapo cameras who are ending up with ARM chips that are not supported by Thingino. So despite these being in the $20 price range and being on Amazon, and this one even having a 3-megapixel image sensor, this is not a reliable purchase, and I don't recommend it. Now here we have the AOQEE, the Y0310. This has the T31X, SC401AI image sensor, SSV 6158, Wi-Fi, and a 16-megabyte flash. This one has a 4-megapixel sensor, which will give you an image resolution of 2560 by 1440. They're about $30 on Amazon, and I have a video showing an easy, no-tools install. This is one of my favorite cams, and this is generally one that I recommend to folks. However, it is $30. Here we have the WiseCam V3. This is a model that's been around for a while, and while Wise is generally a brand that I don't recommend people buy because their newer devices have some anti-consumer features in them, I can't deny that they make a pretty good camera, or previously made a pretty good camera. So you can see here you've got a T31. Generally what you'd be getting if you buy one today would be one of these two, T31X, GC2053 image sensor, Alto Beam or Realtek Wi-Fi, and 16-megabyte flash. This one is outdoor rated. It has superior color night vision over any of the SC labeled image sensors. It is outdoor rated, and it's $33 on Amazon right now. While I definitely am not a huge fan of this model, if you're looking for something that's going to continue to give you a color picture later into the evening and earlier in the morning, you can't really compare against the WiseCam V3. Now, of course, all of these prices are subject to change. Amazon regularly has sales. We're coming up on Black Friday, so who knows what that's going to look like. The AOQEE C1 is not a bad deal at $16. However, if you're looking for something higher quality, I really do recommend that AOQEE with the 4-megapixel sensor. And as I mentioned, the night vision on the WiseCam V3 is really hard to beat. I haven't done it yet, but I do have the GNCC GC2 2-pack. That one will end up being about $12.50 per cam and having essentially the same internals as what you get on the AOQEE. Could potentially make it a way better deal. We'll see what that installation process looks like because I do value cameras that have a no tools installation method. So that's going to wrap it up for this installation video. If you have any questions or comments, make sure and put them down below. If for some reason your installation didn't go as smoothly as mine did, definitely jump on our Discord channel and you can get some live assistance there. I will put links down in the video description for the devices we talked about today, as well as links to our GitHub and the Thingino homepage. And if you're interested in joining our community, I have a link down to our Discord there. We've got a bunch of friendly folks there. at all different skill levels, and we're always happy to have new folks come join in. If you enjoyed this video, make sure and give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing for content like this and a bunch of other different topics. Thanks for sticking with me to the end, and take care, everybody. We'll see you in the next video. Till then, stay fresh, cheese bags.